So, it seems that everyone these days, myself included, are talking about the expensive Elite and Ultimate models. But actually, there is a whole lot of value to be found if you take a look at the slightly cheaper price point, which most brands, at least these days, call the Pro. So in today's video, we're not gonna need this anymore because I'm gonna give you my take on what I feel are the 5 best takedown Pro level boots right now that range in between 140 and 165 euros. So let's get some hella good boots and still save some money and just get it started. And we can start out with the Puma Ultra Pro, which will set you back 140 euros, meaning that it's the cheapest of the bunch. And what you get here for me is a bit of like a two-part boot. The upper is great, especially for the price point. It's this lightweight mesh that takes a lot of inspiration for what Puma have done on the Ultimate and the Carbon. It's not exactly the same, but it is super soft. Gives you this really sleek and snug and very sculpted feel, but also it stays very comfortable. It runs true to size, unlike the Ultimate for me that runs half a size big. So just keep that in mind. And what you have here is, you know, you have bits and pieces of the technology from the Ultimate. You have Grip Control Pro that's scattered all over the upper. It's not tacky as the Ultimate, but a bit more like naturally textured. You have Power Tape, not Power Tape Square, just Power Tape, which is cool. You have Nano Grip on the insole, and that's all very nice. So a really good upper. So why is it 5th, Jay? Well, here's the thing. This bad boy weighs 250 grams versus the 205 grams of the Ultimate. And I know it's a takedown, but for a speed boot, it's a little bit on the heavy side. Also, some people will like that the stud pattern is a bit more balanced with a couple of rounded studs in there, but for a speed boot, I would have liked it to just stay true to the Ultimate outsole. And finally, the heel just reminds me a little bit of the previous version of the Ultra Ultimate, meaning that it's rather stiff and also has a super intense lock on the very bottom. So lovely upper. But there are just a couple of things for me holding this one back from unleashing its full potential. But if you want a slightly more balanced Ultra, it's definitely a good shout. But of course, a list like this is not complete without a Chempo Legend 10 Pro, which just has a history of being a brilliant takedown model. And this is no exception. So it's 150 euros and is just a brilliant football boot. The upper here, the Fly Touch Pro upper, is not as thin and not as, it doesn't have the same amount of this like tension as the Fly Touch Plus on the Elite, but it is close. And it's just an extremely soft upper. At this price point, it's a bit of a joke, really, just how good it is. Extremely comfortable right out of the box, very accommodating, a little bit wider than the Elite, and just a good fit throughout. The sock here, yes, it is a little bit flimsy, but on feet, it doesn't really matter. The outsole is good, and it's a boot that's just no nonsense. Plus, it weighs 200 grams. Which is basically the same as the Elite. And it's not a speed boot. It's one of the lightest Pros around, and it's not a speed boot. So, Puma Ultra Pro. Anyways, really brilliant, slightly underrated Pro boot here, and I genuinely believe that unless you're wearing a Pro and an Elite on a foot each, a lot of people will struggle to really tell a difference. And then there is, that was smooth, there's this gem, which, I'll be honest, it's a little bit harsh having it all the way down here, because depending on your personal preference, it might as well be a spot or two higher up the list, because the F50 Messi Pro here is absolutely brilliant, and that is mostly down to the Hybrid Touch upper that, to me at least, seems to be, if not similar, then very similar to what you find on the more expensive F50 Messi Elite. Which means that you get this, it's an absolute joke of an upper, this, especially at the price point of 150 euros. It is so soft, so supple, and you know, even out of the box. But when you break this in, it's stupidly good. It's so soft, really takes to the shape of your foot, and you still get this very sleek and sculpted shape of the boot. You have the bits of texture that you also find in the Elite, and absolutely phenomenal. And sure, then Adidas have had to cut some corners elsewhere. What they didn't cut is the burrito tongue that Messi also uses. I personally don't love it, but I don't hate it either, so it's cool. And then of course you have the outsole. It's the same stud shape and configuration as on the Elite, but it's a little bit wider and also a little bit heavier, meaning that the Pro here is 205 grams versus the 190 grams of the Elite. So the lightest Pro that Adidas have ever built, and definitely light enough. Puma Ultra Pro. But anyways, what we're talking here is a boot that has a slightly wider fit than the Elite. It's not as sleek, which I guess is okay. That's gonna appeal to some people. And yeah, the heel counter here, it doesn't really look all that premium. It's this single piece of softer plastic that just, it's a little bit iffy. But I don't really care, because when the upper material is this good, at 150 euros, I'm gonna take it. And honestly, this could have been higher up the list, and maybe should. We're talking about fine margins here, and it all comes down to my personal preferences at the end. But I think this has to be one of the best Adidas takedowns I've ever worn. There's been some bad boots in between, but it's one of the best. But I'll also be honest and say that I like the Vapor 16 Pros just a little bit more personally. What I don't love is the fact that they're 10 euros more expensive than most of the other boots at 160 euros, but what I do love is the Flyknit upper here, which is very, very soft and really sock-like upper. If you've ever worn the Superfly 4, and I know it might be a little too old for some of you guys and girls out there, but if you have, you know what I'm talking about. This very no-nonsense, super, super soft, malleable, just fit that, it just fits the shape of your foot. No nonsense. Of course, it's not grip knit, which, funnily enough, might actually appeal to some people that just wanted a little bit more traditionally and simple material. But yeah, just a traditional, classic knitted upper. It's a little bit wider, just like most other Pros, than the Elites, but still feel pretty sleek and Mercurial-esque, very speedy. Of course, there is also the outsole, which doesn't have that 3/4 length Zoom Air unit. Personally, I don't really mind. I like the feeling, but again, it might appeal to some people that just want a more traditional feel. Same level of traction because of the stud shape, which I love. You have that little Zoom Air pod in the heel that doesn't really do much. And there is the weight. It's 206 grams versus the 188 grams of the Elite, so still very good. And overall, it's a really lovely little speed boot here. It's not the best one-to-one replica of the Elite, for me at least, but it feels like a really good, like, alternative timeline version of the Elite, where you could take the Elites out of my matchday bag and replace them with these, and I'd notice a difference, and I probably prefer the Elites, but I'd still wear these and enjoy them. But if the Vapors are in second, what's first, Jay? Well, patience, my young friends, because I just want to give a shout out to, first, the New Balance Tequila V4, not Pro, because the Pro is the top price points for New Balance. Anyways, this is called the Magia, whatever. It's got a really soft hypo knit upper that's very, very supple. Great for wide-footed people, pretty lightweight, relatively sleek. Got the Tequila 3 outsole, and at 140 euros, yeah, it's a little bit flimsy, but also a very solid choice. There is the Puma Future 7 Pro here, which is a little bit on the heavier side, has a relatively soft upper though, and just a good amount of volume if you have a slightly wider or larger foot. 140 euros on the plasticky side for me, so I'd probably rather take a look at this, the Pro Plus. And I know it's a little bit weird, but it's basically the same outsole, a little bit bottom heavy from the Pro, but then an upper that is much softer and a lot more closely resembles what we have on the Ultimate. But it's also 180 euros, meaning that we're kind of now trending towards the Sokito Scudetta Mizuno Elite territory. And while it's definitely better than the Pro, it's also definitely not as good as those boots. So if this had been the Pro at 140 euros, we would be cooking, but it's not, so sad noises. However, what I ended up choosing for the top spot is the Mizuno Alpha Pro. And yes, it's also the most expensive at 165 euros, but for me, it's kind of also worth it because this is what I prefer. It's got a similar textile foam-based upper to the Elite and Japan, and while it's not as thin or supple as the more expensive versions, it's so impressively soft and pliable that I think, again, unless directly compared with one on each foot, I don't think too many people can really notice a big difference. And when you combine that with a fit that is slightly wider again, but still very anatomical and sleek, it's just a very, very comfortable package overall. I'm not crazy about, the tongue. It looks a little bit cheap if I'm honest. On foot, doesn't really matter though. I love the Zero Glide no slip liner here in the heel, which combined with that foam skeleton just gives a really good amount of lockdown and lock in that you don't see often in a pro level boot. And sure, then you got a pretty basic foam insole, and there's no Cavo insert, the stiff insert in the forefoot here, but even without, it's a relatively good speedy feeling underneath. It's 217 grams versus the 200-ish grams of the standard version, 205 grams I think. So it's acceptable, but with that fit and that lockdown, I just think it's very, very good. However, the Elites are still better and only 35 euros more expensive, so I'm just putting it out there. So there you have them, my friends, what I think are the 5 best takedown pro level boots out there right now. 140 to 165 euros, and just a lot of value for money to be had. And I always look at it this way in terms of what you should buy. Which of these would I recommend my teammates to buy? And genuinely, in the top 4, there's not really a bad choice. The Ultra, we just need to wait to come a little bit down. Come on. But yeah. Lots of really solid options here, but the big question is, which of these, or any of the pro level boots, would you take and buy in the link to Unisport right over there? Well, let me know in the comment section right down below as always. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet with the notifications on, well, do that. And if you want to watch more boot videos, there's a playlist right down there, which is flipping awesome, if I do say so myself. And with those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.